Joe Pill waved his hand, eyes blazing, and shouted loudly, "This annoying guy." He turned around, immediately brushing away two people, Han Yop and Mahino. Joe Pill's hands seemed to turn into hard steel, cutting the swords of the other two people. Looking at this scene, both Han Yop and Mahino widened their eyes in horror and exclaimed,
"What the hell, with just his bare hands?"
It's impossible.
Joe Pill was still angry. His hand spread out, a stream of power erupted in the middle of his palm. His other hand held the sword and slashed hard.
Jin Tae-kyung facing that attack and suddenly find an opening.
Joe Pill skillfully used his two hands to attack front and back, and the energy he gathering on his palm released on the Jin Tae-kyung teammates that its critical hit on both of them.
Jin Tae-kyung stepped back a little. He spoke softly, "Pierce of heaven." Following his words, the sharp spear blade quickly rushed towards Joe Pill's head. But Joe Pill sensed the danger behind him. He was not afraid but grinned immediately. After that, Joe Pill turned around, his body moved slightly, carrying a sharp that slashed Jin Tae-kyung's waist, blood suddenly splashing out. In front, two people, Han Yop and Mahino, were also knocked to the ground by Joe Pill. Jin Tae-kyung leaned against the tip of his spear on the cold snow, one arm wrapped around the wound on his waist. He turned slightly to look at Joe Pill towering back, thinking in horror, what the hell just happened? He shouldn't have been in a position where he could counter my attack. Thankfully, I didn't receive any fatal damage, since I was able to tilt my body just in time. Suddenly saw Joe Pill again rush towards Jin Tae-kyung's for attack.
Using his sword technique with speed didn't give him any chance to defend himself. Smiled like crazy to seeing the situation. Rolling the sword in different directions to manipulate the other. Shoulders, waist, and knees were slashed by the sharp blade one after another. Suddenly fresh blood rushed out from his body, leaving no part of his body that got no injuries. Walking towards him and saying, "You still won't drop your weapon."
Looked at his injuries and afraid of his condition.
Joe Pill changed his expression and softly said, "Allow me to praise you."
Suspiciously raised his head and looked towards where Joe Pill was standing. A red flame flare up in his hand. He smiled dangerously and curled his mouth to say, "If you can withstand this as well." Jin Tae-kyung's eyes opened wide, his black pupils reflected the image of that bright fire. In the blink of an eye, the fire flame palm hit on his chest. Forest suddenly shook violently. A large stretch of snow appeared, mixed with some fresh blood. Tree trunks in the forest were also covered in blood. Jin Tae-kyung is currently collapsed under a large tree. His face was covered in snow, and his mouth was still dripping with blood. Next to where he was sitting, the cold snow also turned with blood red. Jin Tae-kyung's body was lightly burnt. His clothes were completely torn by Joe Pill blow. He thought in fear. "It's so hot. What is this? I can't seem to gather any strength." Suddenly feel Joe Pill to coming towards him. Encourage himself to get up on his feet.
Joe Pill looked at him and say, "You're able to get up even after being hit by a 5th mastery skill, Divine Plan of Fire. Quite the potential you have." And again fire flame burning on his hand for one more attack.
Rushing spear towards on Joe Pill, trying to show that still have courage to defend himself. Attack sharp tip of the spear on Joe Pill neck. But he block it with his burning flame hand.
After grabbing his spear with his hand, you really don't know when to give up. At your current state, you won't ever be able to beat me.
Broke the tip of the spear with his hand. What the hell is this? Leaving spear and going to attack with his hands and thinking himself, now that he's shortened out distance, this is my last chance. I'll need to gather a much QI as I can and attack his vital spot. If I can manage that, then I'll be able to turn this fight. And suddenly his mouth full of blood, his face expression changed with confusion. Blood spit on his mouth and he lose his all energy. And fall on ground in front of Joe Pill. After seeing this, what the hell? What is this? Laughing loudly, where did this idiot come from? Are you unaware of what happens if you try to circulate QI that's been blocked off by the Divine Palm of Fire? The QI that you're trying to circulate will have nowhere to go, so you'll end up falling into QI deviation or even dying. You should be thankful that's the extent of the damage you've received. No, wait. You're going to die anyway, so maybe it would have been better if you died just then. Going to attack with his burning flame hand. Seeing Joe Pill going to attack, fearful expression appeared on his face and thinking himself, am I really going to die like this? That can't be. For the past 7 years, I've survived thousands of battles. But I'm going to be killed over some battle in a game, huh? His body shaking with fear, suddenly his mind just remembered it's a game? That's right. This is a game.
Joe Pill smiled, and using his division fire flame palm technique saying to Jin Tae-kyung, farewell.
Jin Tae-kyung don't know what to do, trying to stop him, hey, wait, give me a second. But Joe Pill palm just going to crush his head, please save me. And suddenly he stopped, the voice approaching on his behind calling his name. It's Jin Tae-kyung's teammates trying to get attention of Joe Pill.
"Joe Pill, you shitty bastard.
Back away from our group leader. You bastard."
Joe Pill turned around, looked both of them, changed his expression with crazy smile. I changed my mind. I'll need to tear them apart first. What did you say?
Mumbling himself, this whole time. I was.
Joe Pill says, what are you saying? Are you unable to speak properly now?
Jean T. Kyung continuos mumbling. Fighting like an. The loudly shouted. This whole time I was fighting like an idiot. An equipped dagger.